Hi, Giuseppe. How are you?
I'm incredible, Terry. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, before we get started, I wanted to just give you a little bit about Western Power and how we got here today. Western Power is a nonprofit organization. We're nonpartisan, grassroots community organization that our mission is, by giving back by education, support, and unity. And so, one of the things that we noticed is that there was so much movement coming out for the presidential election, and our local elections was getting ignored. And as you know, our local elections affect our lives 365 days a year. So we decided to pick up the mantle, and us, along with BPEP, VEAM, Women League of Voters, there's several organizations that, this is on the forefront. So yeah, so that's how we got here. Any questions before we go?
No, thank you to each and every one of the organizations. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the things that are important to me and my platform. So thank you.
Good, good, good. All right, so we're going to get started. And before we get started, I want to say we are recording. And if my dogs start barking because my mom's ate, I'm going to hurry up and go on mute. And I truly apologize.
No worries at all.
Okay, okay. So my first question to you is, who are you?
Well, my name is Giuseppe Rosselli. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm a trial lawyer. I've been practicing law for over 20 years here in Allegheny County, the surrounding counties of Western Pennsylvania, and in federal court here in the Western District of Pennsylvania. I've represented every case you can imagine, from something as minor as disorderly conduct to homicides. When I graduated high school, when I graduated college, I went to law school with the sole focus of being a criminal defense attorney.
Uh-huh.
And, so that's what I did. The day I got my bar card, I hung the shingle and I started representing people who trusted me with their cases.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. And I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and I'm sorry, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and he was saying how he has heard of you, out in the trenches. So I'm glad that you informed us of, a little bit about who you are, and I hope to pick your brain a little bit more as
Sure.
we go.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my next question is, why is this right now such a unique? Can you educate us on the unique situation that Allegheny County is in, with 9 common court police seats open, and what does that actually mean?
Without exaggeration, it is an opportunity to change the way that justice is administered in Allegheny County for the next 20 years. It's that simple.
Wow.
If we just went through the last 4 years. We've all lived it, so we don't have to rehash it. But it exposed a lot of very open wounds within our communities,
Yeah.
especially when it deals with race, especially when it deals with policing, when it deals with our court system. You need to mute me. You good?
Yeah, I'm ready to mute you just for go, but go ahead, keep going.
So this election, where we have 9 open seats, it's almost 25% of the entire makeup of all of our judges. So when I say it's going to affect how business gets done for the next 20 years, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, we have an opportunity to make some significant change in the ways that we administer justice moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm glad what I took out of that, and I appreciate your answer. But the main thing that I took out of that is a simple, your simple answer. Your simple answer is this is going to change the court system for the next 20 years.
Well, maybe if we do what's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
We fall into the trap. And look, I'm not a politician, so I'm learning this process as I go. I've been involved in this campaign for about 3 months at this point. I've never involved myself in politics, in committee meetings, meeting wonderful people like you in the community, other than through the course of my work. So I'm getting the crash course on how we do things and how we elect people. And, my fear is we're going to continue down that same path of electing, if not electing the same type of people, but electing using the same processes to elect the same type of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we don't recognize what this moment actually means, it's going to pass us and it's going to be lost.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's what when I think of the uniqueness of where we are right now, I think about, because what West Empower do is we acknowledge the who, the what, the where, and the why, and we have to make sure that we are in the understanding of, especially with the who, you know, who are they? Like who
Hey,
are
listen,
they?
it's a it's tough to separate. It's tough to separate the who in this field. We have about 40 people who are running for these 9 seats.
Mm-hmm.
And these committee meetings that I've been going to, every one of them to a person is talking about fairness, is talking about equality, is talking about criminal justice reform. And personally, I believe that that's what this election's about in 2021 for these 9 seats. We have civil judges, we have family judges, but right now the country is dealing with criminal justice reform, and how do our courts play into that sort of new system that we're headed towards, or at least we're hopeful to head towards. And because everybody is talking the same talk, it's hard to figure out who are the true warriors in this effort, the people who have dedicated their entire careers to these fights.
Yeah.
So, my hope is that the voters educate themselves and spend time with each candidate and actually hold them accountable to their words. Because I'm not big on words, Terry. I'm more of an actions kind of person. So you can say what you want to say, but if your record doesn't support that, I got questions.
Yeah. Now let's tap a little bit. I'm gonna go off just a little bit. I want to tap into your answer right there, because when I first talked to you, Giuseppe, you had gave me some examples of, who you are, and can you give us some examples of, just to get to know you a little, like you said, you're not big on words, and I understand that, but I would also like you to educate us a little bit about, a little of your background. What's 1 or 2 things that stand out for you that of who you are?
Right. So when I talk about how do I fit in that category that I define as real in this conversation, and I want voters to focus on the fact that every day for 20 years I woke up and stood up for equality, stood up for fairness. These aren't talking points for me in 2021. It's a lifetime working towards that effort. And it's important for the voters to understand that concepts like equality, concepts of fairness, they're not, they don't have, they're conceptual. And that concept is based on one's life experience. So I'm not suggesting that there's 39 candidates in this race who don't truly believe that equality is important. I'm sure all of them believe that.
Mm-hmm.
But those concepts of equality and fairness are dictated by one's life experience. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen inequality, if you haven't felt it, if you haven't witnessed it, well, it's hard to understand what equality means to me. So where I come from is I was raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania, to a waitress. Had me I was born when she was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. My biological father left me at the age of 1. My mother remarried at the age of 2.5. And my stepfather, he was a Vietnam veteran. And when he came back, a couple years after that, met my mother, and they got married. I only call him my stepfather for purposes of context. I mean, that man raised me from the age of 2. So that's my father. Yeah. And he's African-American.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in an interracial home with 2 biracial sisters in a very diverse community in Allentown. And, I seen some things. Mm-hmm. And, they're all personal stories, but you can imagine what it's like for being a young white kid growing up in a diverse community with parents in a mixed relationship. Yeah. So Now, look, these aren't my experiences. You know, I didn't feel that racism, that prejudice in the moment, but someone I cared deeply for did. Right. So, so when I talk about my experience, I talk about it through the eyes of a son watching his dad deal with some stuff that I wish he didn't have to. You know, I was thankful that my parents were very, very strict because I could have gotten off that path real easy. They pushed education and forced it on me. It wasn't an option for me. And I was a late bloomer. I wasn't a great student growing up, but at some point it kicked in. And when I got to college, I started to excel. And these issues that, these issues of equality and fairness, I went to a very small Catholic school back east, and I saw some things there. I heard some things there, and it only reinforced sort of my belief in what equality truly is and what fairness really means. When I went to law school, I told you I went there with the complete intention of being a criminal defense attorney. I'm married. I live in Bell Acres after 20 years on the north side. Bell Acres is right next to Swickley. But we spent 20 years on the north side in Brighton Heights when we had our first two children. I have two children. My oldest, she is adopted. She's 12 years old. My youngest, she is my biological. She is 10 years old. Once again, I only use these terms of adopted for the listener. That's my girl. I had her in my arms at the age of 2 days old. She's been with me forever. Wow. So, and she is African American as well. So every day I wake up, I know that my two daughters are going to have very different life experiences just because of the difference in tone and pigment in their skin. And when I go out to work each day, I go out making sure that I treat people completely fairly and with complete fairness and with equality being one of these principles that is a core principle, right? And when I see inequality, when I see injustice, and when I see unfairness, I speak on it. So, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and it's a personal story. I don't know how personal it is anymore because I've told it a couple times over the course of the campaign, and it's my oldest, she was learning about slavery in school. This was about 2-3 years ago. And, this is right in the middle of the time where, unarmed citizens are being shot by police, there's protests, and presidents are saying reckless things that are sort of stoking the fire of racial conflict. And kids, they absorb everything. And like sponges. And, as she's going through this process and learning about slavery through school, she, you could tell this was a very uncomfortable lesson plan. And we had some real conversations, lasted numerous days. By the time that she had absorbed it all, there were 3 questions that stood out that she wanted answered that hadn't been answered up to that point. The first was why? Why did this happen? And I gave her the best answer I could. The next question is, will it or can it happen again? And, she's absorbing it. She's seeing everything around us. And I gave her the best and most honest answer I could in that moment. The next question is the one that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And it was essentially, well, if it does happen again, will you protect me? So it's in that moment, there's some reflection on my end where I'm thinking every day I wake up taking on that fight, making sure that the process is equal, making sure that judges are being fair. And, obviously I told her, of course, I promised her I would. I decided at that point that not only could I do more, but I should be doing more. And, we started talking as a family about, this 2021 election as as an opportunity for me to keep that promise to her.
Mhm.
And that's why we're here. I mean, that's my motivation in this process. Now, I'm not suggesting that I have a better understanding of equality or fairness. I'm just suggesting that my life experience, these concepts are at my front door.
Yeah.
These concepts are things that we as a family talk about. And these are concepts that we are concerned about as we watch a criminal justice system continue on a path of inequality and unfairness. So if I can contribute to making this a better process, I'm going to. That's why we're here.
Wow. So first of all, I want to thank you for the story.
Takes a little bit away from me every time I say it, because it's not an easy story to talk about.
Yeah. No, I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure we all do. That's why we do this, to get to know who you are. You know what I mean? I don't want to ask questions and then just give the answer. Let's find out a little bit about who you are.
Sure.
And so I greatly appreciate that. I also greatly appreciate that your daughter had someone that she trusted in to even ask the questions. Because
Sure.
right now, so a lot of that shows a lot of who you are. So I'm glad that you educated us with that story there. Thank you for that. Thank you. So I think we went into the 9 seats and the importance of the 9 seats and what that means. So I'm going to go to my next question. Now, the court, all courts, but right now we're talking the courts of common pleas. And can you educate us on the values and characters of what should the community, or not should the community, or what should go into the values and characters of a seat of that caliber?
Yeah, this is as a citizen. As a citizen, I want to judge who's fair. As a citizen, I want to judge who's kind but firm. As a citizen, I want to judge who has integrity, who has passion, who has compassion, mm-hmm. right? Who fights for the things that he thinks are right, but understands that each of us come from different walks of life. I want judges who are impartial, who their minds aren't made up before they've heard the evidence.
Yeah.
I want judges who are devoted by the rule of law. I want judges who are transparent. I want judges who can actually find humanity in all humans.
Yeah.
Even the ones who do bad things, right? We as a system, judges generally have no issue. Judges, in the 20 years that I've been practicing, we got this concept of incarcerating people down. We know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I want to focus a little bit more on building people up and trying to avoid incarceration. Incarceration has such a negative effect on not just the offender, but the offender's family, the offender's children, and the trickle down is, in many instances, one of the contributing causes to the continued societal ills that we deal with on a daily basis, whether that's poverty, hunger, stable housing, education, not maximizing education. If a parent goes to prison, it is 50% more likely that child is not graduating high school. We know this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but we don't take that into consideration when we incarcerate someone, when we brand someone a criminal. We're dealing with that offender with as much firmness and law and order as we possibly can, but we're not thoughtful enough to go that next step. Well, what else occurs when we put this person behind bars? So I want thoughtful judges. I want people who take time thinking about not just the offender, but how this affects society as a whole.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are the characters.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, because I have been saying, and if I can scream at the mountaintop, I would, that, when someone gets incarcerated, like you said, it affects the children, it affects the home, it affects the person, it affects the community. And so that's one of the things that I want, anyone listening, everyone listening, the takeaway from what we're doing here is to the importance of this unique situation that Allegheny County is in right
Sure.
now.
Sure.
The last time we were in this situation was the early 70s, so this is something extremely unique. So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question, and I think you tapped into this as well. When you just said that you want equal justice, because my next question was, how does race? Can you tell us how race is being? And you've been here 20 odd years in this. You have seen things that we may hear about. Some of us have experienced, but the of 20 straight years of race playing a huge factor in our courts, in the judicial system. What can or should we look forward to as a community for change?
We need to. So there's a couple ways I can answer this, and I'll try to give you as full of an answer as possible. The first thing I want to go back is the 20 years that I've been involved. Racism and prejudice within a justice system far extends the time that I've been involved. I stepped into this world. I have a lot of conversations when we talk about race and the justice system with a number of people within the community. And my belief is that the justice system is working exactly as it was intended to. Exactly as it was intended to.
Yes.
Now, does that mean that we have racist judges? No, for the most part, we don't. There are some, I'm sure. Okay. Does that mean we have racist police officers? Once again, I don't think most police officers are outwardly racist, but I'm sure there are. I think we have a system of justice that was built a certain way. And the problems now are so big and so vast that when you walk into it, you can't see. You can't, you have to understand it as a whole, because if you look at any one specific case, you can always talk yourself out of, well, that's not a situation where race played a part, right? So when we talk about these concepts of systemic racism, we can start with mandatory minimums are the easiest one. It's the best example when we talk about the war on drugs and how that affected our communities. So, I don't think I'm telling you anything new, and I'm probably not telling your viewers anything new. For a period of time, you got, at least in federal court, you got a mandatory minimum sentence for crack, but that same amount of cocaine in a powder form didn't get you a mandatory minimum sentence.
Right.
Now, is that a racist? Is that because someone was racist who wrote that law? No, but it didn't take into account the effect it was going to have on certain communities. And when we look over the course of time and what the war on drugs has done, it has eliminated large portions of the male role models within certain communities. You got children being raised by one parent, and this goes beyond race. It just has a significant effect on the African American community when we work it through the justice system, right? So you have children who are being raised in one parent homes. You got children who are no longer graduating high school, who are now looking for ways to eat and stay warm. Where are they living? The justice system and the war on drugs specifically has eliminated the need, or eliminated the has made it far more difficult for some in our community to save money, generational wealth, right? We hear about, well, why don't you pick yourself up by the bootstraps?
Yeah.
Well, that's because someone's foot is squarely on my chest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So these are the things. The greatest harm that we have in our system right now is mass incarceration. There's nothing that harms our communities more. We spend more money on justice, prisons, police, probation, judges, than we do pretty much anything else. If you look at any budget for any city, the justice system eats up a large portion,
Yeah.
a large portion of that budget.
Yeah.
So my thought process is, if we recognize that there are deficiencies in the system that affect certain communities more harshly, first we have to own that. We have to accept it. It's a fact, right? We're still arguing with some people as to whether or not this is a real thing.
Right, right.
So the first step is we have to acknowledge it. The second step is, well, what do we do to fix it? And what we need to do to fix it is a very complex response. The answer isn't, let's do A, B, and C and it's fixed, because that's not how the system works. But it starts with changing the way we elect people, changing the people who we elect, right? Getting more voices at the table when these decisions are being made. Now, I'm not naive enough to believe, Terry, that if Giuseppe Rosselli is lucky enough to get on the bench, that he's going to fix all of these problems. I mean, that's silly. But if you put enough people who believe as I believe and think as I think and are willing to stand up and say this isn't right, we need to do something different.
Yeah. And
change can be made. It really can. I'm confident in that. Here's a perfect example. In Allegheny County, we have 4 what we call diversion courts. Okay. And they're not true diversion courts. Diversion to me is, I'm going to divert you from the conviction. In Allegheny County, it's, I'm going to divert you from incarceration.
Okay.
So although jail is has a negative impact on communities, the conviction in and of itself many times create those same negative consequences. Okay. Now we can't get a job.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do get a job, your ceiling is only so high. Right. So in Allegheny County, we have mental health court, we have DUI court, drug court, and veterans court. So in Allegheny County, the courts have determined that post-traumatic stress, addiction, alcoholism, and mental health diagnoses are all contributing causes to criminal behavior. And in an effort to make sure that we build these people up, because we've recognized that they're not bad people per se. They're just people who are dealing with whatever trauma it is that they're dealing with. So we're going to build them up. But at the end of that process, when they've worked it for 2 years and have done everything the courts have asked of them, they walk out of the court convicted of a crime.
Yeah.
Right. And all of it. So they've avoided the consequence of the justice system. And then they walk out into the real world with a conviction that doesn't allow them to maximize their earning potential, doesn't allow them to live in certain areas, doesn't allow them to, it caps their ceiling.
Yes.
And when that happens, that cost is passed down to taxpayers. So taxpayers who are who have this concept of tough on crime have essentially accepted, well, we're going to continue to pay this cycle where people continually come back into the system every 1 year, 2 years. It's 80% every 9 years recidivism rate. So we're paying for that already, Terry.
Yeah.
It never ends. If we're going to pay for it, I'd rather invest in people on the front end to build them up so that when they leave the system, they can leave with a clean name. And when they leave with a clean name, we've given them the foundation that they can build on upon themselves so they don't come back.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect, but what we're doing right now clearly is not working.
Wow. So I have so many thoughts and I have so much to say about your answer because first of all, like you had said, one person cannot change, but if you get a collective of people that is looking for the same change, that's a powerful collective of change, and I cannot comment more, and I'm sure the people listening are is going to understand that it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle that when does the punishment stop? You get to act like, when does it stop? you know, we talk fines and fees, and like, when does the punishment literally stops? You know, and there's some people or that can literally say, you know, this has been going on for 30, 40 years. You know, I can't pay off $100,000 fines and fees, you know. So you brought out so many very good points, and I hope that everybody, you know, grasps them, because that's the reality of what's going on. You know, like you said, there's nothing broken about our system.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing broken, you know, and I'm glad you brought that out. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Can I go one step further?
Yes, please.
So, you know, when people hear me speak, you know, I don't want people to walk away from this and think, well, here we go, and, you know, another liberal talking, you know, weak on crime. Being tough on crime and being thoughtful in process are two very different things. There are people where a jail sentence is an appropriate result to the process.
Mm-hmm.
There is. But the idea so let's just say this, can I incarcerate? Of course I can, right? But it would be unnatural and it would be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the point. It should be. We have far too many people in this position who don't view incarceration and the consequences associated with the justice system in a thoughtful manner. They don't go beyond tough on crime, law and order. You stole, you need to pay, right?
Yeah.
We don't get past that idea of individual accountability. And individual accountability has a role in this. It does, you know. But when people are starting and building on foundations that are cracked, and you're expecting them to comply, and they're looking for their next meal, you know, hunger always wins that battle.
Yeah, yeah. And I also hear that, you know, because a very easy example that I will give is, you know, when we're okay with sending someone that is an addict because they are addicted to a drug to prison sentencing,
right?
Like, that is supposed to be the rehab of what this person's supposed to, you know, what needed. So that's what I hear. Like, yes, people are supposed to, you know, if you commit a crime, and, you know, but we can't sit back and continually say, we're going to incarcerate you because you didn't take your mental health medicine today. Or
accountability comes in many different forms.
Yeah.
Right. And the greatest form of accountability for me, you know, for the individual, is to change the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if our expectation is person who is dealing with a substance abuse issue, we're going to incarcerate you for this, when we acknowledge that it's a health concern rather than, you know, criminal behavior. First of all, that's disingenuous. You know, we're talking out both sides of our mouth. That's
right.
But the second thing is, we're not providing the resources to help people put themselves in positions to be compliant, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So if you are just a normal, you don't qualify for jail time yet. You generally don't qualify for drug court. Drug court is when you've built up so many cases.
Right.
Now jail is your next step. So we're going to divert you from jail. The problem is that person probably had 7-8 times through the system where all they did was give them a period of probation, pat them on the backside, and say, good luck.
Right.
With the expectation that somehow this person is going to beat an addiction without the resources that are necessary to do so. Especially once heroin came onto the scene.
Yeah. Heroin and crack cocaine.
Correct.
Yeah. So now let me ask you, so how can a court can intervene with okay, I see what you're saying. Like, what you're saying is a court can intervene with, you know, the process of someone in addiction, instead of incarceration. So yeah.
Look, prison is for violent offenders, in my opinion.
Okay.
Prison is it's a last resort. We have no other choice. I would much rather use uh, my courtroom as an opportunity to build people up, with the understanding that I can't help everybody, but I don't want to be part of a process that hurts everybody who comes through it. And
I'm glad you shared that with us. I'm glad you shared that with us, because that says a lot right there, you know. So I'm glad you shared that with us. So let me ask you. I mean, you have shared some very intimate, personal stories with us, and we all thank you for that. But I also want to ask you, you know, you said it was 40, 42, between 37 and to 40 some odd people
I
run
40 as a round number. I don't know.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what makes you unique? Like what makes you unique? Yeah, first, it's a two-sided question. What makes you unique in fairness and in equal justice? You know.
Right. So I've lived on both sides of the track. Right. Okay. I mean, I grew up. I grew up. My parents. We lived a very modest life. I didn't know we were. I don't want to say poor, because, you know, I don't want my mom to be offended, because she worked very hard. But, you know, we were have-nots in my community, right? You know, when I say I grew up in Allentown, I don't know if any of your anybody who's going to watch this knows Allentown. I grew up in downtown Allentown. You know, I grew up in the city. Yeah, we didn't live in the suburbs, and it was through hard work that put me in a position where I had a chance to get out and do some really, really good things. There are people from my community who didn't. You know, generally speaking, I think our elected officials are disconnected from the people that they're asked to serve, especially when it comes to the justice system. So if an individual is standing before you and you view their lifestyle as a sin, that's not comforting for the community that comes before that judge, right? Yeah. You know, I've spent an entire career dedicated to helping poor, dedicated to helping helping people who get charged with crimes who come through the system. Okay. I understand their stories. I'm at this point in my career, Terry, where I'm now representing the children of my original client 10 years ago. Yeah. And so when I say the cycle continues, I don't say this because I read a textbook. I say this because I talked to this man's son, who I represented 15 years ago, and nothing has changed. And I refuse to accept that these are bad people per se. They come from an environment that is different than what most people on the Court of Common Pleas or in any position of power can understand. Yeah. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it is I have skin in this game. And what I mean by that is I know the justice system is going potentially to deal with my two children differently just based on the color of their skin. I will not sit back and watch that without standing up and having my voice heard. Yeah. The next thing I'll point out is we have a bench that if you go down the board, you're not going to find many defense attorneys on the bench. You'll find a lot of prosecutors. You'll find some civil lawyers. But you're not going to find many people who dedicated their entire career to representing the accused. Yeah. I'm that person. And the last thing is I was progressive before progressive was a thing. Okay. The things that we're talking about now, and I call them low hanging fruit. Cash bail is the hot topic in this election. I find that laughable. Of course, cash bail is offensive, but it's so obvious. It really, it's not necessary to have that conversation because it's clearly obvious that attaching one's freedom to financial ability is offensive. It shouldn't be part of any just system, right? I'm far more concerned about the 3, 4, 5 steps after that. Yeah. Right. So they dangle the low-hanging fruit. Everybody jumps. We grab our cash bail. We think we've accomplished something. That's silly. Yeah. That's silly. It's one very, very small piece. to the efforts that need to go in to fixing a system that currently is not working for the people that it serves.
Wow, wow. Okay, well, listen, I asked you to be straightforward, and if it, and I have to say, you're giving me exactly what I asked.
Well,
So thank you for that.
you
So, and I also, now when I asked you, I said, send me a picture
Mhm.
and send me one or two lines about you. And
Sure.
what you sent stood out to me that I wanted to make it into one of my questions.
Okay.
You said that who you are is progress over politics, record over relationships, message over money. Can you tell us what does that mean?
Exactly what it says. So let's start with the first one: progress over politics. I told you
Yeah.
before, I'm not a politician, and I'll be very candid with you. I don't like it. I don't enjoy a process where we talk about change, but aren't willing to do what's necessary to make the change. Politics is a lot of talking about what we're going to do. I'm focused on what I've done, right? If you want to understand the type of judge I would be, you have 20 years to look back on. You don't have to hear me tell you, right? This is what we're going to do. The reality is, I come from a unique, I come to this crossroads from a unique angle. And for 20 years, equality, fairness, standing up for those who don't have a voice, and making sure that the process works for everybody, at least on my watch.
Okay.
That's what I've been about my entire life, right? So we talk about progress. I'm more interested in actually walking that walk.
Yeah.
We're either talking about it, or
Yeah.
words just talk. We're either actually taking the steps that are necessary to make these changes, or we're just interested in having conversations about it. I'm far more interested in actually taking those steps. When we talk about record over relationships, once again, it's 20 years of doing what I've done for the people that I've done it for the reasons that I've done it. There's no one in this field that's like me. And the idea that to get into a position to serve my community requires me to build relationships with people who like to talk about progress, but aren't necessarily making the decisions that allow us to take those steps. That gets to me. So when I point out record over relationship, I don't care who your friend is. I don't care who backs you. If you're not about it, then you're not about it.
Okay.
The last piece, message over money. I'm a very small campaign, Terry. It's me. I have a campaign manager who's not a professional campaign manager. He and I both work full-time jobs. In fact, when you go through this process and talk to whoever it is that you're going to talk to after me over the next however many weeks, ask them when the last time they tried a case was. Okay. I tried a case Monday.
Okay.
Right?
And I will.
So I tried a case Monday to verdict, aggravated assault shooting.
Okay.
Monday, in the middle of a campaign.
Yeah.
Some of the people who are running professional campaigns. They're not working. They're focused on winning an election. I don't knock them for it. If I could do it, maybe I would. But I don't have that. I don't have that luxury. So this isn't about how much money my campaign has. This isn't about the number of TV commercials that you're going to see with me and my family as this process goes through. I'm not trying to win an election because I have the most money, because the fact is I don't. I'm going to win this election because I'm going to get in front of enough people who are going to hear my voice, and it's going to resonate. And my message is what's going to carry me to the bench. And when I get to the bench, I'll stay true to my word. I will be the same person that I am in this interview on the bench. The same philosophies, the same message, the same compassion for those who come before us. So
Wow.
that's what that means.
Thank you. Because when you sent it to me, I said, So I didn't want to have my own thoughts on it. I wanted you to tell us.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on it?
So mine was basically, so the progress over politics, I've thought of, the cases you have done, or, where you have been in the field of already doing, the cases, or what type of cases you have taken. The record over relationships, I took that you're not really into building a friendship with, not that you're making enemies or anything, but you will rather get on the courts and make a difference than be someone's friend. I took that like that.
Fair way to analyze it.
Yeah, and message over money is that you will rather let someone understand your message than take $200,000 or $100,000, or the importance of your message is more important to you than the money. Now that's what I took out of.
As I've gone through this process, there have been times where I've been down because there's a lot of disappointments. You're trying to get your message across to the masses, and you're looking for support. You're looking for people to stand up and say, yes, that guy gets it, right?
Yeah.
There are times where it's like you're just not getting to where you need to get to for the right people to hear the message. But every time I get a chance to speak on these things, I feel as if I'm moving the conversation a little bit further.
Good.
And now others are hearing it, and the conversation is included in the overall conversation as to what's important in this election. And that's why I stay motivated. That's why I continue to have as many conversations as I possibly can, because my thoughts on these issues, they're not unique to me, but we're not talking about it in this election the way I'd like to. So I'll keep pushing the envelope so that conversation is that discussion is part of the conversation.
Good. Thank you for that. And somebody had just said to me, regardless of what happens, I know the conversation will continue to go. They have heard my conversation now. And so thank you for that, because yes, I can't remember who just said that, but I just had a conversation, and it was basically, and it wasn't pertaining to the court of common pleas, but it was basically, regardless of whatever happened with this situation, someone have heard, their conversation. And so that's progress right there, So, all right, thank you for that. Now, my next question you answered in several of my questions. So we don't have to get into it unless you have something else to say about mental health and addiction and how they tie as one, and how the courts play into it. And I think you answered it, but if you had something else to say about that, we will greatly appreciate that as well.
So one of the system as it's currently set up does its best to identify individuals who are dealing with addiction, who are dealing with mental health diagnoses. Judge Lazara, for example, who handles mental health court, she's very passionate about mental health court. I've worked with her on a number, I actually teach trial advocacy, teaching young lawyers how to try cases with her.
Oh, wow.
So I know the passion and the compassion that she has for those who work that program and how much she believes in it. I just wish it'd be expanded. That's all, right? We've acknowledged that mental health is a contributing cause.
Yeah.
I believe that most people who come through the system, many people who come through the system, have undiagnosed mental health, mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
But because they don't have the diagnosis, or there isn't someone who's ordering the diagnosis, they don't get the mental health portion of the justice system. So I believe it needs to be expanded. I don't think anybody who commits a nonviolent offense, where we can identify a mental health diagnosis as a contributing cause, needs to leave the system with a conviction.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just seems like common sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we make it harder on individuals to maximize their ability, rather than put resources in front of them to build them up, right? And I'm not just talking about throwing money and resources. What I'm talking about in mental health court, you see the judge once every week, once every 2 weeks, once every month, depending on where you are in the process, right? There's a hands-on between judge and accused. I don't understand why that can't be expanded, and it should be expanded. Addiction is no different for me. We have an entire generation of young people who are now going into their 30s that have been ravaged by the opioid epidemic. We have an entire generation before them dealing with the issues of crack cocaine. At what point do we say what we're doing right now is not helping people? Right. And at what point do we say, as taxpayers, I don't want to continue to pay for the cycle of recidivism? Right? I would rather help people build themselves up so that at some point they can break free from the system and alleviate the taxpayer of the need to continue to pay for a system that clearly isn't working. Right?
Wow.
So, I always find it funny when I talk to, conservatives, for example. They're generally tough on crime, right? But they're also the same group of people who say that the government is an inefficient process, and when you let the government get involved, the bureaucracy of government is not the best way to spend our money. But they always fall short to accept the justice system as part of a government function. Right? They refuse to accept police departments as part of the government function. Well, they're equally as bureaucratic, and they're equally as inefficient. But we accept that inefficiency because it's law and order. Right? I'd much rather find a way to help build people up so that they can break free from the system and then build themselves up. From that point forward, the justice system should be, at a minimum, a place where one can start building upon their own foundation.
Wow. Again, we asked for straightforward answers, and so thank you, because like majority of the time, it's mental health and addiction. They're so connected together, as one issue, that and what we do is we separate them as, well, this is two different issues here when they are so intertwined together. So thank you.
Let me ask you this. A young kid growing up in a high crime neighborhood, where everybody has guns, there's drugs everywhere, there's violence, there's gangs. Explain to me how that citizen, that young man, that young woman growing up in that community doesn't have some deficiency emotionally, mentally, psychologically. Growing up in some of the neighborhoods that our citizens grow up in is its own deficiency in and of itself. We don't, those individuals aren't pushed through these diversion courts, right? They just get a general docket. They get their conviction, they get their period of probation, they get pat on the back, see you in a couple months when you violate. And they give these, especially in Allegheny County, we get these extended periods of probation for nonviolent offenses. Why do we need 3-4 years? What's the purpose? If it's not to set someone up for failure. Probation should be part of the process to build people up. They shouldn't be seeking reasons to incarcerate people. And that's, that's part, it's just one small piece of the total package that are the issues with our justice system.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna tap on the question that you asked. Um, when I do have conversations about, mental health in our communities right now today, and addiction, what we are seeing and what is a fact is that we have become numb to what's happening, what is going on, or dealing with the mental health and addiction. What you do is you get comfortable with it. Like, this is who I am. So and it goes from there. And like you just said a couple minutes ago, it's not diagnosed.
Right.
Someone has not diagnosed it, so
Right.
you don't get the treatment. So that means this is just who I am. So so I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is so important, and it's something that we have a unique situation. I have to keep going back to that. We have a unique situation right now. That a lot of these things that we are talking about needs to be looked at as a man or a woman that is going to be a judge looking at our, like you said it yourself. You're dealing with children of men and women that you dealt with 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's what's happening, so we have to look at the situation that we are in with these 9 seats, and the men and women who has their eye on the ball, have their eye on the, right on the target in our communities. So thank you for that as well. Thank you. 2 more questions for you. Two more.
Sure. By the way, I'll stay as long as you want. I'm good. I got nothing scheduled tonight. Just me and you.
Okay, now see, I'm gonna take you up on that, because I'm gonna have to bring you back in, because so much changes. And then what happens is when we get done, it's always, oh, I should have asked them this, or you say, oh, I should have said this. So we would like to invite you back. Let's have these conversations as many times as we can. Like I said, stuff changes all the time. So my next question is, can you give us an example? And I know you said something that you teach law, you teaching law to some youth or something you were saying, like a couple examples of how you volunteer in the community, and how and if that will change if you are elected to the Court of Common Pleas.
All right, so there, I can give you a number of examples. The second question is a little bit more difficult, because I've never been a judge, and I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. Let me put it this way: community service is important to me. Giving back to people who I have a privilege to be where I'm at. I really do. And if I don't take advantage of that privilege to give back, then I'm not living my best life. So, let's start with a couple of examples that I think are important.
Okay.
The first is I was part of the team this past summer who represented the 60+ protesters who were wrongfully arrested. For their protesting the George Floyd murder. Okay. I was humbled that I was asked, and the responsibility was not lost on me. I knew I knew the importance of that moment, and was thankful that we were able to secure, I think 60+ cases withdrawn. I teach law school, University of Pittsburgh. I'm not an adjunct professor. I'm not a tenured professor. I donate my time. A judge asked me to help, and it gives me an opportunity to work with young lawyers and help them build their craft. And that's important. During the pandemic, we found that there was a shortage, or there was a difficulty had individuals from low-income communities were having difficulty getting audiences with competent lawyers, right? So you couldn't take the bus downtown, right? Because even if you got on the bus, there's probably no lawyer downtown in his office at that time. Because there was a deficiency there, I created a program through the Wilkinsburg Library that you sign up at the Wilkinsburg Library and you get a half hour with me and someone that I bring to the table who might be an expert in the area of law that you're okay. We don't offer free legal work. We offer free legal advice, but oftentimes, if we're able to help, me or someone who was involved would help. Okay. That program is now expanding. Working with, I'm about to start a second library with the Carnegie Library.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
So, and I hope that not only do I hope that continues, I hope that grows. I just need help with that to grow. I'm just one man. And I also do pro bono work, court appointments. Okay. When the court asks, I generally will step up and do it.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but wait. So pro bono, is the courts ask you to do pro bono, or do someone come and say, hey, I don't have no money, and you do pro bono?
It could be both.
Okay.
So when we talk about pro bono, the courts rarely ask for you to do pro bono. So they'll ask for court appointments. But the fees that you get for court appointments are I'd say a fifth of what a normal fee for me would be, right?
Oh, okay. So
regardless of how much work I put into it, I'm only able to bill X amount, and the rest of it would go to pro bono. I don't even bill for it. I just chalk it up to the whatever the bill they'll allow, whatever they will pay me, and I'll chalk it up on my own books as pro bono.
Okay. See, this is why I love doing these, because I'm serious. I know it's not, but I'm telling you, I learned something every single time. Now, did not know that you were in Wilkinsburg Library starting that someone can come and get some information from you, some advice from you. And now you wanted to expand, and you're talking of the Carnegie Library.
Correct.
Okay. See, I love it. I love learning.
We've offered advice in domestic situations,
mm-hmm.
PFA work with individuals, divorce work, estates and trust, wills, criminal, obviously. And I only say obviously because that's my strength.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we helped with? Landlord tenant was a really big one over the last couple of
months. Because of COVID and everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we set it up in a way. The first one we did, it was live, where we showed up and we took all of the COVID precautions, and then everyone started getting a whole lot more comfortable with Zoom, like you and I are on right now.
Yeah.
And we were able to see more people.
Wow. So let me ask you, so you can let us know. Is there a certain day that you do this, that someone can go to the Wilkinsburg Library and get some assistance?
So if you, Deja McGuire is the contact at the Wilkinsburg Library. She would put together a list of 5-6 people at a time. And when we got to 5-6 people, she would reach out and then we'd schedule something. She advertised it if we didn't have enough people. So all I did, and I don't want to take any credit where it's not due, because Deja has been and
that's Deja McGuire?
Yes. She has been an absolute Wilkinsburg. She's Wilkinsburg is lucky to have her.
Wow. See, I'm so glad now we have learned something new, and for the people who already knew, pass it on. Mm-hmm. So and please let us know when you do get connected with the Carnegie Libraries.
Yeah, we should be scheduled. The first one should be sometime this week, if not this week, next week.
Wow. And which one? Which Carnegie Library?
If you give me a second, I can find out for certain.
Okay, please. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because somebody always need, some information, or they can or know somebody that may need some advice. Mm-hmm. That will be
Terry, here's the other thing.
Okay.
They can just call me.
My next question to you is this: how can someone get in touch with you?
Sure. So My number's been the same for 20 years. It's 412-281-8008. That goes directly to my cell phone. So if you can reach me that way, you can also reach me. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 412-877-7370. If you call me 50-50, I might answer. I screen my calls when they come through my cell phone, but if you text me, I will always respond back to you.
So now can they text you on the 281-8008?
No, only the 877 number. That's why I gave you that 877.
Okay, and what is it? Say it again for everyone.
Yeah, sure. It's 412-877-7370.
Okay. That's the one. Okay.
I don't charge. I don't charge to talk to people. Some lawyers have consultation fees. I don't have that. I'll be happy to speak with anybody, and if I can direct them to the right resource, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. So that was my next question. My next question to you was, how can someone get in touch with you? I may not have asked the question that they may have, or they may want to ask you something altogether different, or just sit down and pick your brain. So I'm glad you gave us your phone number and everything. And now, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to say before we end tonight? Here now is your chance. And like I said, I would, like to bring you back. I would like to bring, just because things change. And like I said, I guarantee when we go our separate ways, we are going to say, I should have said this, or I should have asked that. So is there anything that you would like to say before we close out tonight?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is thank you. So every opportunity we get to talk about these things, when I say these things, I don't want to diminish it. We're talking about equality. We're talking about fairness. We're talking about, what I believe to be one of the institutions of our society, and how that institution functions has real effect on people's lives above and beyond a jail sentence, above and beyond a period of probation. So every time that we have this opportunity to speak on these things, thank you, because not everybody's interested in having this conversation. This has been an exhausting process for me, because I feel as if I've been trying to convince people that I am the real deal. When you live it and you can't get others to embrace you in an effort to trying to be correct here, so bear with me while I try to figure my words out.
I understand.
Let me put it this way. There's 30 plus some people running, 40 people running. If you're voting in this election because you care about the justice system, and you care about criminal justice reform, and you care about fairness, and you care about equality, there are very few people's resumes who can match up with mine. And I mean that sincerely. Okay. And if you ever want to talk about it, if any of your listeners want to have that conversation, I'm happy to have that conversation, because once again, we're pushing the conversation. We're talking about important matters. So, I'm open to those conversations. Please do your homework, everybody. Please. There are a lot of people who are talking about the things that I'm talking about, and I haven't watched the other people who have discussed, these issues.
You have my feelings.
I did that intentionally.
Okay.
I did that intentionally. I wanted our conversation to be pure.
Okay. Okay.
So, I will go back and talk. I will go back and watch those past episodes, because I am genuinely interested. I don't think there are bad people who are running in this election. I think there's a lot of good people who are well-intended, and they talk about the concepts that are most important to me. But there are levels to this. There are levels to equality. Surprisingly, a concept like equality, which, it should be right here. One's concepts of equality is based on our life experience. I have that unique life experience that allows me to understand these issues on a personal level. So if you are a voter and you are serious about equality and fairness, please look me up, www.rosselli, ROSSELLI, the number 4, judge.com. And you can check out my entire Allegheny County Bar Association application. I don't know how many other candidates are putting their entire application for the public to see. I have, in an effort to be as transparent as possible, I have my entire application on my website. And I was recommended by the Allegheny County Bar Association for the position of judge in the Court of Common Pleas. So
that's huge.
And I appreciate you. And I can't wait till the next time we get an opportunity to speak.
Yes, us as well. I want to say one more time, thank you so much for coming and talking with us here at Western Power. One thing I'm going to take from this is, you know, we asked for straightforward answers. And I have to say that you gave us exactly what we asked for. So we cannot say.
Who has time for the BS, Terry? Who has time for the BS?
Well, we have to say thank you so much. And you know what? We cannot wait to bring you back and hear what else is going on.
Oh, I do have one more thing I want to say.
Yes.
Campaigns like mine, we're small. I need volunteers. I need people to help me get on the ballot. The biggest issue I have right now is all of, my platform, my belief structure, the things that I want to bring to the bench. None of that will come to fruition if I do not get on the ballot. And in a process where COVID is part of the process, it's not a foregone conclusion that I will be able to get on the ballot. So we need at least 500 Democratic, 500 Allegheny County voters on each Democrat and Republican side to get onto the ballot. And if anybody has heard my message and wants to join my team and volunteer in an effort to get those signatures, you will be embraced, you will be thanked, and we need the help for certain. Then that process starts February 16th to March 9th. We have a 3-week window to secure those signatures. So.
Oh, wow. To secure 500.
At least, because there could be some challenges.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The real number is closer to 750, 1,000, but yes.
Okay. Now, to educate us on this. So if someone can you sign all of them, all the ballots, or when there's certain situations, if you sign this one, you can't sign that one, and
Yep. So my understanding, and once again, not a politician, not an expert, but what my team tells me is that a voter can sign up to as many petitions as there are seats open.
Oh, okay.
So right, if a voter supports another candidate but also wants to support me, at least to get me on the ballot, they would be able to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. There you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for coming again. And again, we look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Terry.